Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblum, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
This is probably the best I've felt in a long time, and that's saying a lot. Waking up, and being able to run and not limp. Going this time last year, I was just all about faith, and with me being there, sooner or later it was going to help.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Here on a Friday night, we wrap up what has been a busy week of Sports Talk, and you know what? It's only going to get busier now because when we come back at you on Monday night, we'll have practices underway in many locales, meetings, practices, and the like, and we'll be off and running towards the 2015 season. Of course, the high school kids, they're underway. Some NFL teams are underway as well. The Panthers reporting for camp today down or up in Spartanburg, depending on where you happen to live in the state. I guess for most of us, it'd be up in Spartanburg. About the only way you would say down in Spartanburg is if you were in, say, Gaffney, and you're going to go south down to Spartanburg. Otherwise, everything else is up
Clemson
to Spartanburg. Well, I mean, technically, Clemson would be south of Spartanburg. So, because Spartanburg's north on 85 from Clemson. Yeah. Clemson, Spartanburg, you go north on 85, so you'd be going up to Spartanburg,
well,
technically speaking.
That's the way the interstate says, but we know why they put north and south. That's because they're odd number. But, yeah, it's kind of northwest, still a little bit northwest of Spartanburg. Well,
good to have you with us. Hope you've had a wonderful day. We're going to lead you into the weekend with another great edition of Sports Talk. Lots coming up. Mike Morgan is back from his extended vacation. He's about the only thing the Braves didn't trade while he was gone.
I thought he was traded.
He is still with the Braves in terms of covering them. He'll be with us back in his regular slot. David Shelton will be with us in hour number 2. We talk high school football on Friday night with David leading up to the high school football season just a few weeks away. We'll hear some from Panthers quarterback Cam Newton as he met with the media today as they get practice underway in Spartanburg. And we'll update what's happening on the PGA Tour. Also, NASCAR up at Pocono. Monty Dutton will be with us with the full Monty on NASCAR at 7:30. Kyle Busch has won the pole. This guy, I tell you what, he's about as hot as anybody's ever been in NASCAR between winning poles and winning races. He has won the pole at Pocono this afternoon. The trade deadline has come and gone in Major League Baseball. The Mets making the big news this afternoon, acquiring Cespedes to help their offense down the stretch as they try to catch the Nationals in the National League East. A lot of movement around Major League Baseball over the past few days, and we'll see how it pays out. Sometimes it works out for you, and sometimes those trades turn out to be a big old dud.
4 players. That's all the Braves have left from their opening day rosters, 4 players.
Well, sometimes renting a player, as some will do, will help you. And sometimes you end up paying a big salary and getting nothing in return. We'll be back in just a moment. right, Professor Tom Hayes back with us tonight. K-Mac, Kevin McCrary is off tonight. The state man, Graham Pope, he's gone for a week of vacation. We do have Larkin Belton behind the scenes tonight, behind the bulletproof glass, taking your phone calls, putting you on the air in proper order and in proper time. 800-956-7266. It is Open Mind Friday as we take your phone calls amongst everything else. 800-956-7266. Our email talkback at sportstalksc.com, on Twitter at sportstalksc. The website is sportstalksc.com, and on Facebook, you can like us there, Sports Talk Radio Network. Open Mind Friday. Open for anything that you want to talk about that you've heard this week. Maybe you've got an idea or a concept or an angle that we haven't explored this week. Feel free to bring it up and discuss it with us. We're talking college football, high school football, and, of course, the NFL, which is starting to kick into high gear with camps opening up around the country. Also, of course, let's don't forget the Major League Baseball races do continue, except, of course, not including the Atlanta Braves. Unfortunately for them, they will just be playing out the season over the next 2 months. It's going to be a long, hot 2 months and a pretty empty 2 months at Turner Field, I would think, for the Braves, as they have, as you pointed out, Pro, traded away most everybody they had on the roster at the beginning of the season. What else? NASCAR will be hitting the home stretch here. The Chase coming up. Darlington not too far down the road, so we'll be keeping our fingers on top of that as well. We'll give you recruiting a little bit later on. Clemson has picked up a baseball commitment. We'll tell you about him. He's from Colorado. So the Tigers add another one to their 2016 recruiting class. I'll go ahead and tell you his name. He's a right-handed pitcher, Travis Marr, from Castle Rock, Colorado. And he has committed to Clemson. What else to tell you about very quickly before we jump to your phone calls? MEAC preseason poll is out. South Carolina State picked number 2 behind North Carolina A&T. Aggies got 9 first-place votes. The Bulldogs 4. Bethune-Cookman picked 3rd, followed by North Carolina Central, Morgan State, then Hampton, Norfolk State, Howard, Delaware State, and Savannah State. A&M, Howard, and Savannah State are not eligible for postseason competition. So that cuts it down to an 8-team field in the MEAC. Meantime, All-American defensive lineman Javon Hargrave of State named the Defensive Player of the Year. This is preseason, of course. First-team All-MEAC honors, along with sophomore linebacker Darius Leonard. Running back Jalen Simmons, tight end Tamarick Hemingway, and offensive lineman Javarius Lehman. Defensive end Reggie Owens and defensive back return specialist Antonio Hamilton were picked All-MEAC second team. So good for them. Former Clemson linebacker Kellen Jones is now going to play for the Wisconsin Badgers. I'm not sure if Mr. Jones hasn't set some sort of a record. Wisconsin will be his 4th major college team.
Yes, I would think that's a record.
He signed with Michigan out of high school, stayed up there a short while, came back home, went to Oklahoma. He's from Houston, went to Oklahoma, left there after, I think, a season, then ended up transferring to Clemson, was there for a couple, 3 years, I think, had a redshirt year in there, I think. It was a couple of years. He hurt his knee. Remember that? He hurt his knee. And now he's taking advantage of that 5th-year option, going to go to Wisconsin. Last year he had 29 tackles. He caused 1 fumble in 13 games. Well, if it's not a record, it probably at least ties a record held by many.
It's got to be a record because we all remember the college career of a guy who had a pretty good arm, but his head was not always in the right place. Now it was Jeff George. He showed up in Miami, and then Purdue had a good season, whatever, then disappeared and then popped up in Illinois for his senior year. And unfortunately, as one Scott said, and it turned to be prophetic, $1 million arm, 10-cent head. And that's what it turned out to be.
Former Clemson defensive back Bashaud Breeland will serve a 1-game suspension for being cited over a year ago for simple possession of marijuana. This, according to the NFL Network, he had 71 tackles, 17 pass breakups, 2 interceptions in his rookie campaign with the Redskins. He is slated to start opposite Chris Culliver in the Redskins secondary. How about that? A Gamecock Tiger cornerback tandem for the Redskins, but Breeland's going to have to sit out at least that first game. Clemson today announced its non-conference basketball schedule. Tigers will open up November 13th in Greenville against North Carolina Central. Then November 15th, a Sunday, Texas San Antonio. November 19th, Texas Southern, going heavy on the Texas teams. November 23rd, they'll play UMass. That's going to be in the MGM Grand main event in Las Vegas. Creighton and Rutgers are also in that event. And they'll play either one of those on the 25th. November 30th at Minnesota for the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Then back home December 2nd for USC Upstate. 4 days later, Wofford. A week later, December 13th, Alabama. 2 days later, Presbyterian. And then December 18th on Friday night, South Carolina in Greenville. And then December 22nd at Georgia. And USC guard, this is basketball, Marcus Stroman going overseas for a week as part of the USA East Coast Basketball Club team. This team's made up of players from 9 different college rosters. They'll go to France and Italy for games against top international competition, August 1 through 9.
Meant to ask you, did you get to the Pro-Am?
I did.
Oh, did? Okay.
Went there Wednesday night. Caught a half of the last game. Watched the first half of the last game.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm in football mode, baby.
Yeah.
Basketball. Unless Larry Bird walks through that door and starts throwing up threes, not in basketball mode right now.
Well, if Carrera's on the floor, you can.
He was on the floor.
You have some elbows like they do in football when he's on
He was looking pretty good when I was there. Dwayne Notice was looking pretty good when I was there. Tell you who else looked good. Now, he's no longer eligible for college basketball. MJ Rhett. Joe Rhett's son.
Well, you know, Dwayne Notice, you know, if he played football, he would be like Bruce Ellington. You can see him playing. Doesn't he look like a free safety?
He sure does. He sure does.
Uh-huh.
Well, you know what? After his basketball career has run its course, maybe he can play that 5th year of football, much like Clemson's guard from the last 4 years, the point guard.
Oh, I know you're talking about from Augusta, Georgia, whose name escapes me right now.
How quickly we forget.
Really?
Boy, as soon as they finish.
I remember where he's from, but I just can't. The name
Rod Hall. All right, let's hit the phones. 800-956-7266. Bob in KC. Welcome in Sports Talk. How are you?
Good evening, Phil, and good evening, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Well, we are in the playoff system in college football now, and I had shot you and Tom, and I know Graham Pope's not there anymore, an email from att.net, and the Big Ten will not play any more FCS schools.
For them.
Well, no, they won't. They won't be paying the bills for Little Sisters of the Poor anymore. So they're going to obviously aim at going and playing what they call the Power 5 conferences and their non-conference schedule. That makes sense, right?
Well, that works for me, but you got to remember one of the reasons they can do that is there's not that many FCS schools in their particular states that they be paying the bills for. If they're going to play schools, they'll play the MAC, which is only a little step above, in my opinion, some of the FCS schools.
You know, I listen. Not to take anything away from the FCS schools because those guys work just as hard as everybody else, and occasionally one rises up and springs the upset on a team.
North Dakota State.
But, you know, just take all the billions of dollars you're making and let's subsidize those programs, help them out a little bit, give them the money they would have made by playing a game, but play the big boys in your 12-game regular season slate. And let's kind of even out
them in exhibition
the schedule.
Games. Doesn't Dabo want exhibition games? Play them in exhibition. Play them in exhibition.
I just like to know when you walk into a stadium, whether you go in as a fan or a media member, that the game has a chance to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see the statistical breakdown. I've got to believe a large percentage of the matchups between your Power 5 teams and your FCS teams are not competitive within the range of, say, 4 touchdowns. I mean, who wants to go sit through a game that's already 35, 42 nothing? You know, Clemson, South Carolina State last year. Who wanted to sit through and watch that? And I like the position Joe Julia has taken at Coastal Carolina. And you can say, well, he's got the money to back it up. I don't know. I don't think he can reach into his pocket and fund the football program. I don't think they allow that. But he has said that they will not play those games because he wants to play teams on his level and have a chance to win games. And, the thought about these guys getting a chance to play in a big stadium and all that kind of stuff, I don't know that they appreciate that when they're being routed and don't have a chance at victory in most cases. Now, I know your Appalachian State's gone up to Michigan and won, and your North Dakota State's won, and Furman's won over the years. Eastern Washington, there's select ones that have pulled off the upsets from time to time, but I guarantee you, by and large, I would dare say 90% of those games are won and won handily by the FBS teams.
Except when they play Wofford.
Well, even Wofford, Wofford has hung in there the last couple of times, but even the Terriers have suffered their lopsided losses in those matchups too.
That's true.
All right, back to the phones we go. Billy in Florence, welcome into Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
Hey, fellas, I'm glad that July's over and we're heading into August and getting ready to strap it on and get going. I wanted your opinion. I got a text and an email last night from a friend that had some video of Lorenzo Nunez, and he looks like the real deal to me. He looks like junior Colin Kaepernick, and I want your professional opinion on how long it will be if Connor Mitch struggles before Spurrier puts him in.
Probably a quarter. I mean, if Connor Mitch is your starting quarterback, and as we were told on Wednesday, in no uncertain terms, there is no number one quarterback right now. So Connor Mitch or any of the others, Scarnecchia, Orth, or Nunez. I mean, it's wide open. Those, on the one hand, that's exciting in that it's going to bring an extra element of surprise to the camp. But the other part of it is, you'd like to have your quarterback established and ready to go. That's not going to be the case for South Carolina. First time in many years they have faced that situation. So, in your scenario, if Connor Mitch wins the job, I mean, he'll be given an opportunity against North Carolina. He'll be given a half to go out there and put the team in the end zone a couple or three times. But if he falters, the next guy will go in. I don't think Spurrier is going to be all that patient. Because they're all so even, apparently, that if one is out there and not getting it done, I think he'll go to number 2. And if number 2 ain't getting it done, I think he'll go to number 3. Thanks for the call. And we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network from our Learfield studios, downtown Main Street, Columbia. Famously hot, not just famously hot, it's damn hot out there. It's not just famously hot. We are the Sports Talk Show of Main Street, South Carolina, from the coast to the mountains and all points in between. 800-956-7266 as we approach our 32nd year of Sports Talk. In just a couple of weeks, we will be celebrating another year having gone by of Sports Talk. August I have to check my calendar. I believe August the 14th or so is like our anniversary date. This year, August the 14th would be a Friday. So I am going to declare August the 10th because we started the show on a Monday night in August of 1984. And I don't believe it was the first Monday in August. I think it was the second Monday in August when Don Williams hit the airwaves with those famous words, "Welcome to Sports Talk," or something along those lines. Doing our show from a closet studio over at Middleburg Plaza in Columbia on Forest
the first
Drive.
floor. Wasn't that a hotel or something?
It was a condo.
Oh, okay.
But we had offices on the bottom floor, and I think we had 11 stations with us to begin Sports Talk back then. 11 stations, no listeners, and no callers. It made for some long interviews and some long summer nights of filling time back then. So happy that we don't have to do that anymore. As we go back to your phone calls here on Open Mind Friday, Brady in Columbia listening to us on the Point. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Hey, Phil, how you doing, bud? Good to talk to you.
Yes, sir. Good to have you on board with us.
Sure. Listen, a couple things. I think Connor is going to be the starter. I thought he looked best. I mean, I think he's the best. I thought he looked the best in the spring. Again, we've all been living it with the practices as they've kind of changed it, but I thought Connor looked the best. I thought in the spring game he looked like he had the most command. I think Perry will push him. But I think athletically also, Connor is not straight speed real fast, but he's got pretty quick speed. He's a little underrated athletically, and I think you'll see that. And I think he throws a very good deep ball. I think he's got very good touch. I think he throws a better deep ball than Dylan did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you're going to see is they're not going to throw as much, I don't think, this year, but I think they're going to if you look at Dylan, I think Connor just has a little bit better mechanics. I don't think they'll throw as much. And I don't think he'll have the receivers that Dylan did last year. But I think you'll see Connor manage the game, and I think he's got very good touch on the ball. I think he'll do fine. I think he'll definitely be the starter. I think he's looked the best. I think he'll be the starter. And we'll see what happens. I think that the defense will be definitely improved. And I think early in the season, I actually think the defense might carry him a little bit as they get him a little more experience. And I think you'll see Nunez some too. I think you'll see a package for him. I mean, I think with Brandon McElwain coming in next year, I think Nunez probably, you might as well go ahead and play him. And I mean, give him a chance to see what he can do. And you never know what might happen when he gets out there. I think you'll see some packages for him too. Jumping over to basketball real quick.
Well, let me say this before you jump to basketball. If Connor Mitch doesn't go out and light it up with his arm, then we all have to wonder what happened. Looking back at my recruiting notes on him, in his junior year at Wakefield High School in Raleigh, he threw 3,900 yards and 51 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. In his senior year, he threw for 3,832 yards and 48 touchdowns. That's 99 touchdowns in his last two seasons. I don't know. I mean, he's got an arm. He must have an arm. He's got good size. And if he's not completing passes at a high level and for high yardage, you have to ask what happened to him over the last 3 years.
I would agree. I think they're not going to throw as much and be more effective because you got to remember when South Carolina had that defense, Spurrier kind of changed his stripes and said, look, I got a good defense. I don't need to put the ball in jeopardy. I think last year with the defense, he panicked in some fourth quarter situations and thought he had to throw, and that ended up just sucking the pass rush of the other team right at Dylan Thompson. So I said, I think they're going to run the football more. And to make any quarterback that ultimately wins the job better is the play action fake if you're running the football? And I think that's going to be a key. The defense, how effective are they early, and if the running game is clicking.
Phil, but yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see. We'll see. Jumping to basketball real quick, I tell you, the big thing I see, I know you were out there, Phil. I went 2 nights. I mean, the athleticism that the fans who didn't get a chance to go out there to see the kids coming in for Carolina, it's going to be a whole different team next year. I mean, you've got, obviously, we know what PJ can do, but you're adding PJ Dozier, Chris Silva, and Raymond Doby, and right off the bat, your athleticism goes. I mean, it's 5 steps up. I mean, I think with Dwayne coming back and obviously Sindarius, I mean, this is a whole new look team. This is the first team that we've had in a while, Phil, that I think can go out most nights, not all nights. I think it's Kentucky, but I think everybody they play, I think athletically, finally, we can match up with most of these teams. And we're going to have some depth. I think, I mean, you got guys like Justin Mackey and Carrera and, Marcus Stroman. I mean, this team has depth. I'm very impressed with the young guys. I think Raymond Doby was a steal. Silva's going to be a watch highlight film guy across the SEC. I think Silva's going to be – he could be a star in the SEC in the future. And I think they'll challenge for the NCAA tournament this year.
Did you see Mackey score his 47 the other night?
I did not. I did not see that.
Yeah.
But I missed that. That's only one of the games I missed. And, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, it's a pro-am. A lot of that, what you see there, it's like an all-star game. They play. There's not a lot of defense. But like you said, I mean, Dwayne, all those guys have improved. They're all gotten stronger. I mean, the young guys are the athletic guys, but they're seniors and they're upper class, and their juniors are been in the program, know what Frank wants to do. I don't see any reason they can't win in the low 20s and make the tournament. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it, bud.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't see why they can't make a run at least for a high seed in the NIT. I'm not talking about just going to the NIT as an also ran. I'm talking about going to the NIT as a high seeded team that just missed out on the NCAA tournament. I could see that. Yeah, you talk about this incoming class. You mentioned the 6'7" Doby. Don't forget, there's still 6'9" Eric Cobb to, for their sake, hopefully get into school. That would be another big body for them if everything gets cleared up with the clearinghouse with him and he gets into school. But, PJ Dozier, the talent level with this class coming in, the talent level, and you know what? Throw Tamarcus Blanton in with this class because he didn't play last year. He's over the hip injury apparently at 6'6", a big guard, someone who can cover big guards out on the perimeter apparently. That's got to be a bonus. So you throw Blanton in there along with Silva, Dozier, Jamal Gregory, who's a left-hander, saw him the other night, Eric Cobb, and Raymond Doby. Yeah, that definitely improves your talent level. And you mentioned the other guys coming back. Stroman should be an improved player. They should get more out of Mackey. Notice has taken his game to another level. The hope is Thornwell's got 2 healthy knees and can actually lift off the floor and shoot his jump shot right. And Carrera's back for his senior year. Cavish has made tremendous improvement from his sophomore to his junior season. If he continues with that kind of improvement, he'll be a serviceable big man once again. And Cassius gives you good, hard minutes. And we saw what he could do when he puts his mind to rebounding. He can be a 7 or 8 rebounds a night kind of guy. So 1 through 15, yeah, I like the roster here. And of course, you have a couple of walk-ons to throw in there as well. There was a transfer. Don't remember his name. I saw David Cloninger writing about him. There was a transfer about 6'8", 6'9" in the Pro-Am who's walking on at South Carolina, but transferring from another school.
If Silva early on can be a rim protector, you may see them press more with the athletes they have, and that'll be a big key for them.
Be right back. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, wah. Where did the season go for the Braves? Time for our Braves reports with Mike Morgan, brought to you by Play It Again Sports off Bauer Parkway in Columbia, where you will pay less for more. Been out there, done that, and I agree with that statement. You will pay less for more. And by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals. Mike Morgan, my God, I thought they had kidnapped you. When you left us, the Braves were in the hunt and had a roster that we recognized. You come back, they're so far out of sight, couldn't find them with the Coast Guard, and we know no one that's on the roster.
Well, clearly I was the missing element. I think we can all agree on that.
They were not prepared for you to leave at that point of the season.
I like to think it's more of an inspiration than an intellectual thing that I provide the organization. But obviously, without that inspiration, the team took a little bit of a nosedive. But
a little bit.
Yeah, I believe 13 out of 17 is the number. I kept up with this the best I could in Europe, where needless to say, the coverage of Major League Baseball not quite what it is in the States. A lot of soccer and a lot of rugby talk over there. But nevertheless, it's when you look at this team now, in addition to the obvious slide, I think we all know what this season is about at this point. Think about this, a 25-man roster back in April when we were talking about this team, 21 new faces on that roster. There's only 4 guys left. I mean, they have been wheeling and dealing. It's been hard to keep up with who's on the roster anymore. But I tell you, there's going to be a name that you're going to be very familiar with pretty soon. At least John Hart hopes that's the case, and that's Hector Olivera, because they gave up a lot to get that young man. He's a 30-year-old former Cuban stud that a lot of people saw showcased in the World Baseball Classic. Everybody wanted him. The Dodgers outbid everybody for him. And now, as part of this deal, the Dodgers parting ways with him. They get a good pitcher in Alex Wood. I was surprised to see Alex Wood dealt. Career ERA of just over 3, a Georgia product, a guy who's been so good for the Braves during his 4 or so years there. And, of course, their number 1 prospect in Peraza. So I think this deal opened up a lot of eyes. And you'll appreciate this analogy, Phil, and when I think about John Hart compared to Frank Wren, 2 GMs. Frank Wren was kind of like you at the blackjack table at Harrah's back in beautiful Council Bluffs, Iowa. You know, you'll be there for 6 hours, but you're betting $5 a hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Frank Wren did. Little deals here and there. He always worked the phones now. He wasn't quiet when it came to trades, but he didn't bet big. And John Hart, with this one, he's betting in the blue chips. You know, he's going 500 a hand. This one will either really enhance his legacy as the Braves GM, or it could potentially, a couple of years down the road, damage it. That this young man out of Cuba is going to have to come up big for this deal to look good, and that's what they're banking on.
Well, it's interesting when you look at what the Braves have done, and then if Braves fans want to say, yeah, they're tearing the team up, just take a gander at Houston right now. Sometimes you have to take a few steps back to build what you think is a team. Now, here's the key point is, with this trade, don't they have the money now where I guess in the next year or two, they're going to be going after some free agents, I would assume. They're swinging the bat.
There's no doubt about it, bro. There's a kind of an axiom in the NBA, which is you want to be either really good or really bad, but you don't want to be in the middle. Draft picks now in Major League Baseball develop much more immediate returns than they ever have. And by the way, the Braves did get what they call a sandwich pick, number 35, between the first and second round of this deal. But even more important than the draft picks is that you either want to spend a lot of money to be good, or you want to just start cutting payroll and start rebuilding. And that's what the Braves have obviously done here. Even with the young man from Cuba, the Dodgers are on the hook for the big signing bonus. The Braves won't have to pay any of that. They are basically they've been stockpiling young arms. Now they finally got the bat, because other than Freddie Freeman, at least they hope they got the bat, there's nobody else in this lineup that scares anybody. I mean, it's an anemic lineup really on paper. I give them credit. They scratch and claw. They're gritty. They get runs more so than they did last year, but they needed another bat. They feel like they got it, and now they're turning their eyes to 2016 and 2017 with these moves.
All right, Mike. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, and we will hear from you again on Monday night as we grind on with the Braves through the rest of this baseball season. Recruiting coming up after this break. And the recruiting report on this Friday night for you here on Sports Talk begins with linebacker Michael Pinckney, 6'1", 215 of Jacksonville. And he thinks he is related to the Pinckneys in the lower part of South Carolina, including well-branched defensive lineman Niles Pinckney. He's currently committed to Miami. However, South Carolina is making a strong push for him, and he's listening. He was at USC's camp in June, was invited to the pool party earlier this month, but couldn't make it. But he said he loves South Carolina facility, the coaches showing him a lot of love. His commitment to Miami, he said, feels very strong at this point. It feels like home when he goes there. But he said if South Carolina makes him feel more at home, then something could happen. He talks regularly with the Gamecocks. He's primarily looking at Miami, USC, LSU, and a couple of others he did not identify. And he hears from Steve Spurrier Jr. on a regular basis. Greer defensive back Troy Pride, a Virginia Tech commitment, was offered today by Georgia Tech. In basketball, 6'6" Jalen Johnson of Durham, coming off a very good AAU summer, now has offers from Clemson, USC, Alabama, Miami, Wake Forest, Tennessee, Texas Tech, East Carolina, VCU, Old Dominion, South Florida, Appalachian, Wilmington, and Buffalo. He's starting to work on reducing his lists, and he has USC and Clemson still on that list, he said. Miami, Tennessee, Wake Forest, or others he mentioned as still on the list. Clemson offered early, and they've been recruiting him harder than the Gamecocks at this point, he said. The Tigers were at all of his games in the month of July, and they see him fitting into their program as a shooter. He said that's what they're looking for, a shooter in a bigger guard who can get out in transition. He says he feels pretty strong about Clemson and the ACC. He's not yet scheduled any official, but he could see Clemson and USC getting visits from him at this point. In baseball, 2016 righty Travis Marr, Castle Rock, Colorado, committed to Clemson today. He hit 382, 2 homers, 12 RBIs last year. And as a pitcher, 2-1, 3.68 ERA. Reportedly a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. And he joins the Clemson class for 2016. There you go. With recruiting, check it out online all the time on our website, sportstalksc.com. On Twitter, use the hashtag #STRecruiting. Steve Spurrier Jr. won the USC football coaching staff's annual golf tournament today. Maybe an upset, maybe not. He's a good golfer. G.A. Mangus has been dominating that thing in recent years when Spurrier Sr. Hasn't won it. Let's see. The Quicken Loans National Tiger making some noise today in his own tournament. He shoots 66. He is at 8 under par. The leader is Ryo Ishikawa at 11 under. Ricky Fowler and Kevin Chappell, they are at 10 under par. And let's see, Bill McGirt is 4 under par. Bill Haas is 4 under par. Jonathan Bird is 2 under par. Top of the hour break, and we'll be back.
She put me on hold like Hello. Hello. So now when you hang up, make sure you don't hang up on it. There should be a way of locking in.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblum, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
It's a Friday edition of Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. Good to have you with us. Hope you've had a great day, a great week. Going to have a great weekend. Look forward to getting down to practice big time next week. The high school guys, they ain't messing around. They're already on the practice fields around the state of South Carolina. David Shelton will join us here after our next break, foremost expert on high school football in South Carolina. And you know what we'll do? We'll take some calls for David. If you have a particular high school football question, high school football team you want David to analyze, give us a call in our next segment, 800-956-7266, and we'll have David break it down for you. We'll spend 10, 15 minutes with him. Of course, he'll be with us throughout the upcoming football season, both on Sports Talk on a regular basis and on our high school football scoreboard shows. We are bringing back a version of our high school football scoreboard show. Remember, it used to be a 2-hour program. We did it that way for many, many years. We've been gone for a couple of years. We're coming back with a high school football scoreboard show, but it's going to be condensed. We're going to do 3 5-minute broadcasts at 10, 10:30, and 11 o'clock that stations across the state will clear. And we'll bring you all the scores through those 3 shows. You'll get all the scores from across the state, and David will chime in as well to comment on particular games. So we are back in the high school scoreboard business here at South Carolina Radio Network this coming football season, and we are doggone happy about it.
Are you?
Doggone happy about it.
I know you're glad about it. You go able to put in a cut or two of coach somewhere along the line.
That'll be tough. Maybe in the playoffs when we have fewer games.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to it's going to be fast-paced, up-tempo, transitional.
And no hot calls.
Hot calls. Billy Baker, hot call from Dillon High School.
Oh,
hey, listen,
man.
we had some great moments on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Marty Simpson's was it 61-yard field goal? I think Billy was there when he booted that at Spring Valley High School. Many other big moments in high school football around the state, not just in the Low Country where Billy camps out, all across the state, folks calling in with eyewitness accounts of big plays and big games on any given Friday night. So we'll be back to doing a lot of that just in a condensed version. You'll still get as many scores as we can squeeze into 5 minutes at 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and we'll begin on week 0 of the high school football season, which in South Carolina is going to be on August 21st. So really, that is 4 Friday nights from tonight, counting tonight. It's the 4th Friday night from tonight, counting tonight. David Shelton coming up. You got a question for David? 800-956-7266. Back in a moment.
Try it again.
I guess that's the one for this one.
Yeah, still here.
All right, high school football teams across the state getting the jump on everybody when it comes to practice. They're out there. They're hitting. Well, not really hitting, but there's some hitting going on. They're sweating. They're running. They're trying to learn schemes, et cetera, et cetera. And out amongst them all, keeping a close watch on what's happening in high school football, we welcome in our good friend, contributor to Sports Talk, the prep sports editor for the Charleston Post and Courier, senior editor of the High School Sports Report, emphasis on senior. It's David Shelton. How you doing, David?
Yeah, I tell you, after today, I feel real senior.
Where were you today?
I feel older than you. I actually
Ooh.
feel older than you, Phil.
Well, that's not hard to do because, see, you know, I'm like Spurrier. I belie my
boy.
age. I don't let my age define me. Where'd you get out to today?
I did a little feature today on Joe Call at Somerville and Chris Kander at Goose Creek, you know, who both guys are replacing, you know, legends at their respective schools. And this first day of practice for them is there as the head coach. So I went out and watched both teams practice a little bit, got a couple of interviews and then filed a story. And, you know, tomorrow I'll hit a couple more, and I'll hit a couple each day.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily here in the Low Country, but as we get towards the middle of August, week 0 time around that, I might be able to struggle out and see some of the teams around the state. Just kind of depends on how the schedule works out.
I got to believe it was kind of surreal around Somerville today. The first time in 3 years that somebody not named John McKissick was running football practice.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it was a lot different. You know, Joe Call says he has some ideas about today's kids, and for the first time ever in 63 years, I should say, you know, they had a scripted practice, timed periods, music at Somerville High School.
Music
during practice. I kind of joked with Joe. I said, you know, is Grandpa around anywhere? He goes, I think he's in his office, but he's not going to come out for this.
Uh-huh.
He would be, Joe, what are you doing over here, son? But yeah, a totally different atmosphere, very, very fast paced. You know, Coach McKissick, and who's going to knock at 621 wins, but his practices were basically the same for 63 years. And, you know, they did things his way. And even though he had some younger coaches like Joe who says, you know, hey, Granddad, you know, we got to do things different now. And, you know, McKissick's answer was, it's worked for, you know, 600 wins, so why can't it work now? So, you know, hard to change, but that's what made Coach McKissick so special, is that you could go to one of his practices in 2014 and it's pretty much run the same way that it was in, you know, 1953. So, you know, so Joe had a different tempo to the practice today. Definitely, you know, he's very excited and good for him. And they got a lot of work to do. They're a very young football team, lost a lot of really good players. So, you know, they got to keep it as up tempo as possible to get those kids some time as quick as possible.
All right, we've invited folks to send us their email comments and questions to you, or give us a call, 800-956-7266. David Shelton is with us, our high school guru here on Sports Talk, and we have an email question. David, can you comment on Andrew Jackson High School with their new coach, C.J. Fry?
Well, I don't know personnel yet, because obviously it's the first day. We'll get into that as we move through August. But I can tell you this: I saw a coach from Andrew Jackson at the coaches clinic. Wasn't CJ, but you know, he kind of mentioned they were very excited there. You know, CJ is going to do a good job. He's you know, he may not be a well-known football coach, but he was a great player and knows the game. You know, they needed a change, I guess. You know, they're doing what a lot of schools. I mean, there were so many coaching changes this year. I mean, it's hard to keep up with who's where, but CJ's going to do a good job. You know, he's got a tough challenge there. You know, they play tough people on their schedule, you know, with Sherrall and Central and people like that. So, but he'll do fine.
What do you think his talking about CJ? I mean, he was, if I remember correctly, he was a two-way lineman. He could play defensive line. He could play offensive line. What's his forte going to be in terms of building a football program? Offense, defense? What will he try and do?
Well, I think it's, primarily his background is on defense. He was a Shrine Bowl defensive lineman. And, and I think he, growing up and going through college and all that, defense was his specialty. But, nowadays that don't really matter a whole lot. You got to really kind of know everything about football. You got to know both sides of the ball. A prime example is Scott Early at Westside, who has been at Myrtle Beach and Chapin, Lexington was, his offenses are unbelievable, but he was a defensive coordinator. He was a defensive guy, but it just so happens that, he found his niche with some offense, the stuff they do. So, CJ, Joe Call has been an offensive coordinator, for 9 years. He's got to learn a lot about defense. And at Goose Creek, Chris Kander was a defensive coordinator for 9 years, and now he's got to learn about the kicking game and learn about offense. So I don't think you can, today's world, I don't think you can, pencil in a guy as a quote unquote offensive guy or defensive guy. But I would say that CJ's, most of his knowledge would be on the defensive side.
All right, 800-956-7266, the phone number. Let's go to Ryan in Hartsville. Question for David Shelton. Ryan, you're on the air with David. Go ahead.
Hey, David, how do you think the Hartsville Red Foxes are going to be this year? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I believe we'll be right there in contention again. I think, Greer, South Point, Hartsville, Myrtle Beach, top 4 in 3A. And I see, Hartsville's got Rivers and McPhail back at running back. Their quarterback is back in Lynch, who will be a third-year starter. It's not so much that they throw the ball at Hartsville that you need a good quarterback, but that guy knows that offense. He makes good decisions. Datavius Wilson on defense will lead them. They got a really good corner or a safety type in Cotton. So, Hartsville's going to be, if not undefeated, they won't have many losses. Now, you can't get Jeff Calabrese to say that, but they got personnel and that running game, they average well over 300 yards rushing a game, and they'll do that again with those two backs returning.
800-956-7266 for David Shelton. Also, email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Particular high school football question or team you want David to talk about, fire away. The transfer quarterback up to Northwestern, how's that going?
I assume all I know is that a couple of weeks ago he was playing for James Allen in the 7-on-7, and then the next day he was not. And I text Ike Allred and said, where's Gage? And he's like, he's transferred to Northwestern. And that's, I think it was a little bit of a shock there, so he didn't say a whole lot about it. But I can tell you, having seen him play, he's pretty good. He's a legit 6'2", about 200 pounds or so, and left-handed thrower, got a good arm, makes good decisions, will run that. Chesterfield. James Allen's offense that is a lot like Northwestern's. I mean, they're very similar, kind of the air raid attack, they call it. So he won't have much of an adjustment in terms of offenses, but it definitely hurt James Allen. Northwestern had quarterbacks, will always have quarterbacks, but this made them better at quarterback. And James Allen, when you throw your eggs in one basket, he's a returning guy. He's a junior, played a lot last year, played most of the year. And then you go through all the summer with him, and then you don't have him. It's going to have an effect on James Allen for sure.
All right, hang on, David. Got a break coming up, and we will continue with you on the other side for a couple of more minutes. David Shelton is with us here on Sports Talk. If you have a high school football question or comment for David, ring us up, 800-956-7266. You can always remember the last 4 digits of our phone number very easily, right, Pro?
What are you talking about?
What's
William
the connection?
Perry,
there you go.
Where's the other one?
William Perry. 66, 800-956-7266.
Okay.
That's William's number in the pros with the Bears, 72, and 66, of course, when he was at Clemson. So for those of you who don't think we like the Tigers, we specifically asked for a phone number to tie us in with the Tigers, and we chose William Perry. Your calls coming up for David. All right, high school football Friday night here on Sports Talk. David Shelton is our guest, and back to the calls we go. And we go next to Joe down in Charleston. Hi, Joe. Welcome to Sports Talk with David Shelton.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Quick question. Just wanted to see, how do you think the Berkeley Stags are going to be this year? I'll hang up and listen to your answer.
Thank you, David. Berkeley Stags.
Okay, I did question, but I assume it's about Berkeley.
Yeah, he won't know how the Berkeley Stags are going to be this year.
Okay. Oh, well, they're going to be, they're the team to beat in that region. Jeff Cruz is going into his 5th year, and snuck a peek at them during 7-on-7s. And again, that's not a great measuring stick because there's nobody blocking and tackling. But Berkeley's going to be really good. They've got a run of athletes coming in their lower levels. The young quarterback, I think, will be a 9th grader, is a really good-looking athlete. Somebody told me at Andre and Bruce Ellington's camp that he was going to be the next Bruce Ellington, and I'm like, whoa, okay. But he is really good, and they do have a junior quarterback. They lost a really good senior quarterback, that was really the heart and soul of that team and really led them in some games. So they're going to have to replace his leadership. But they have some good athletes at Berkeley. Berkeley's never lacked for athletes, and I think winning 8 games last year, basically won 7 or 8 in a row, before they lost in the playoffs. I think that really propelled the program, gave it a lot of energy. Jeff has won everywhere he's been, so, it's just a matter of time before he got his system in place there. And I look for them to be the team to beat in Region 8 3A. It's a tough region with Hanahan and OW and Hilton Head and Buford. But I think they're the team to beat going in.
All right, back to the phones we go for David Shelton, and it's Greg over in Edgefield on the air with David Shelton. Greg, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Phil, for taking my call. David, I want to take you out of the lower state up to the Midlands for just a moment, if you don't mind. And I'm calling specifically about Strom Thurmond High School. Now, Strom Thurmond won 8 or 9, maybe 10 region championships up until last year when Lee Sawyer retired, and then we have another head coach coming in. And obviously, he did not win the region championship, and it was, frankly, it was a large letdown to a football-rich tradition community. Do you know anything about what we can expect out of the Strom Thurmond football team this year?
All right, thank you very much, David.
Well, I think there was an adjustment period when Coach Sawyer left, who had done just such a great job and was really Lee is one of the top 10 football coaches of my era of doing this. I mean, he could really win. So they have an adjustment there, but I think they're going to be fine. I mean, football is changing every day, and you're going to have to rebuild with new coaches and personnel. Strom Thurmond, whether or not they win that region, I don't know. It's a competitive region. But they're going to win. They're going to be in that 8-9 win just about every year. And if they're not, they will make another change because football is very important in that community. And they're used to winning. They won for years. And, not winning a region title, not such a big deal. But if you're getting beaten in the first round of the playoffs, that's a big deal. You want to, Strom Thurmond, you contend for state titles. And that's what people are used to. And, that's what these new guys will have to get to.
All right, David, hang on. We'll come right back to you in a moment. Now, David, if I had known they were going to be so popular, we'd have done this for 2 hours.
Well, I don't know if you'd have done that because I was asleep an hour ago.
Oh, okay. Couple of more calls for David, and then we're going to shift gears and get to our NASCAR report with Monty Dutton. But let's go to Raymond in Barnwell, next up with David Shelton. Hello, Raymond.
Hey, Phil. Hey, David.
Hey.
Phil, just want to make I'm very honored and proud to know that Chip Atkins, the late Chip Atkins, has been entered into the High School Hall of Fame, and makes me very proud and honored that he's received that award. And also like to know what Allendale Fairfax, he coached Allendale Fairfax and Barnwell.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to know what Allendale Fairfax and what Barnwell, what David thinks he's going to do this year. I'll hang up and listen.
Tigers and war horses there, David.
Well, I can tell you this: the Tigers are going to be really good. Allendale has had a really good run of athletes of late and have made runs, but not quite gotten to the finals. I think this year it could be them in Christchurch. In fact, at the coaches clinic, I took a picture this week of Coach Frost and Coach Ford together because I said, when y'all play in December, we'll have this picture already done.
Nah.
And Allendale's athletic. Shakur Chisholm has transferred over there, and they now have 3 1,000-yard rushers, great athletes, very good quarterback. Not so much as in a prospect, but Will Ward is a prospect on defense, but just a really physical player as a quarterback, and they're going to run the football. It'll be hard to beat. I mean, them and Bamberg in the lower state are probably going to be the top 2 teams, and then over at Barnwell, Dwayne Garrick has come back as the head coach, had a lot of success there, went over to Williston Elko, and got out of coaching for a couple of years while his son was playing over at PC, and now is back at Barnwell. They got some things to work out. They're not going to be what I would call loaded this year, but Dwayne's going to get his system back in place. I talked to him at the clinic this week. He feels very optimistic that they'll be competitive, maybe not a state contender yet, but very competitive. But you talk about Allendale. Them and Bamberg are going over in that section of the state are going to be 2 really good football teams.
All right, very good. One final call for David on this Friday night to Mike in Dillon. Mike, welcome in. Say hey to David Shelton.
Hey, David, how you doing? I would just like to get your thoughts on how you think Dillon is going to do this year, and I'll hang up and listen.
Let me before you answer that question. David, before you answer that question, that's a Dillon fan asking
take a shot. How
you think Dillon is going to do this year. I mean, why don't you ask how Microsoft is going to do this year? I mean, we all know, and maybe he just wants to hear us say it. We all know how Dillon is going to do this year, right?
Yeah, they're going to do very well again. Probably a 4th state title in a row, although probably a 4th state title in a row.
Yeah.
Very talented, a lot of experience. Jackie Hayes has said this might be the best team he's had. That's kind of scary. But they've got linemen, they've got backs, they've got a great quarterback. They're physical on defense, very athletic. I don't see anybody beating them. In 2A, honestly, it's become Dillon, Timberland, Dillon, Timberland. Timberland down here in 2A. Now they were Division II last year, so they didn't get to play Dillon, but that was a very good Timberland team also, and Timberland will be very good this year in 2A. May not lose a game, so both teams may go undefeated again. So, but to answer Mike's question, yeah, Dillon's going to be Dillon. There's not going to be any drop off whatsoever this season, and heck, Avery McCall may graduate after a 4-year, 4-title run, and they may bring up some other quarterback that's just as good. So you just know, but they're enjoying the Avery McCall era, that's for sure.
All right, I got to let you go, but 2 quick ones, and just give me 15, 20 seconds on each team. One is South Florence.
South Florence got a lot of guys to replace, but David Prince has really got his program. They won 31 games over the last 3 years. They lost Nick Johnson at quarterback. That's going to be a big loss, but still will be very competitive. Tough opener, though. They play at Fort Dorchester in the opener.
And Newberry.
Newberry is going to be a state title contender. Jafari Wirtz at quarterback is an excellent player. I think he's a Georgia Southern commit, And Phil Strickland now has been there long enough to where he's got everything rolling. They had a great run last year where they lost to Timberland, and they're going to be right there back in the hunt again. Very good football team.
David, thank you so much, and let's do this again next week.
Okay, Phil.
David Shelton, High School Sports Report, taking your questions and giving you his answers on high school football in South Carolina. Proud to know him, and we appreciate him being with us tonight. Let's shift gears, literally and figuratively. We welcome in somebody who knows something about football because he played for the great Keith Richardson. I think he was a center, maybe a guard. I know he played on the offensive line. I know you didn't play wing back or anything like that.
No, I was a center. You're correct.
Yeah. Did you, Monty, with us the full Monty on NASCAR? So back when you played, this is a stupid question. I know Clinton didn't run the shotgun at all, did they?
No, we ran a wishbone.
Okay. So all you had to do was just get it in the hands behind you and then go hit somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as a matter of fact, when Clinton plays in Newberry on September 4th, the state championship team that I was on is being honored before the game.
Yeah. Now, who were the studs beside yourself and on your state championship team? Who were the studs?
I was not a stud at all, but I was the least memorable player who played a lot. Anyway, I had Harold Goggins played at Clinton with me, and Roscoe Watson, who was South Carolina, and we had Roy Walker, who won the Jacobs blocking trophy at PC, was my best friend in high school. So we had quite a few good players. Well, we won the state championship in 19.
Those first two you mentioned were a heck of a player, but they were heck. All right, I'm trying to put plurals here where I can't get them. They were excellent players both in high school, and then when they went to college, they both had outstanding college careers.
Yes, Roscoe died at a very young age of a heart attack playing on basketball court, and so we lost him a long time ago. But Roscoe meant a lot to me. He was a great player, and he was a great person.
And I thought Harold Coggins was one of the better running backs that come through the state at that particular time, and then go to Clemson and do well.
It's not easy to be a halfback in a wishbone and get 2,100 yards.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you got a great line in front of him, as he obviously did, I mean, that makes it a little easier.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and he had a center who got a lot of double team help.
well, Phil is in high school football mode. I want to get into racing mode, and I've been wanting to ask you what in the world has gotten into Kyle Busch. I mean, what will you break a few limbs and then you find out you can drive all of a sudden?
Well, he's always had a lot of talent. It could be that the adversity has helped him grow up, although I'm very reluctant because during the time that I've been around racing, I've heard the new Kyle Busch described at least 100 times. And the whole thing is, it's really not – Kyle's always been a really good guy when things are going his way. It's just that when adversity strikes, the brat comes out in him. And so I hesitate to me, when things are going great, it's never been his problem. But that was the subject of my Bleacher Report column this past week. Partially that was the subject because when a guy wins 4 times in 5 weeks, if you're a guy like me, you hope somebody else wins because you wonder what in the world else can I write about this guy. So that was the tack that I took this week. But he's on the pole at Pocono as well, and he's making a mockery of it right now. It's always been my point is I always scoff a little bit when people always talk about how everything is more competitive than it's ever been. Racing is so much better. Racing has got more money. It's got more well-financed teams. But competition is when one guy wins, 5 straight championships. And, I mean, if you look at just the basic numbers, that in itself undermines the notion that it's competitive when one guy wins all the time.
All right, hang on a second, Monty. We'll come back to you for more on the full Monty on NASCAR. Kyle Busch wins the pole, 178.416. Kevin Harvick was second, 178.168. Joey Logano, Austin Dillon, Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, Brad Keselowski, and Jeff Gordon, the rest of the top 10. Before we get back to Monty, this SEC football, LSU coach Les Miles has lifted the suspensions of quarterback Anthony Jennings and 2 others. Of course, the district attorney's office down there in Baton Rouge dropped the charges against Jennings and Dwayne Thomas and Marquitius Bain. So they are free to practice with the Tigers. We'll see if Anthony Jennings is the quarterback by the time they get to Columbia around midseason.
Well, they need some better quarterback play this year. There's
Absolutely.
no doubt.
All right, back to Monty Dutton, our full Monty on NASCAR as they're at Pocono this weekend, and we're grinding our way towards the chase, a few weeks off, and everybody's talking about Kyle Busch and what a great run he is on. Tell you what caught my eye today in qualifying, somebody who's getting better here of late is Tony Stewart. I mean, he's on the move now, and it appears – he's getting close to getting back there towards a win if he can just stay out of somebody else's mess.
Well, Pocono is – I really – it's hard for me to – I don't understand why you wouldn't use the same rules that you use at Indy at Pocono, because Pocono is, while it's triangular, it has 3 flat turns, and it's the track that's most similar to Indy, but they're back to the old rules for this. But Stewart was fast at Indy. The only thing about that race is that it seemed like to me, in terms of strategy, you could not have been more inept than Stewart's team, because they made a succession of really bad moves and then kept changing 4 tires and losing track position again. But it's good to see him running. He certainly did. You know, he drove well last week, but he just didn't get the finish to show for it. Of course, that's not getting the finish to show for it has been the story of his whole year.
Sure. What else caught your eye out of practice and qualifying today?
Well, it wasn't so much what happened in practice. By the way, on the other thing, I do think that if Jeff Gordon is going to win again, a track like Pocono is a place where it might happen, because Pocono races are often determined by strategy, and Gordon has won races in the past by that way. And so I think this might be his best opportunity to make the chase. But the big news in racing to me is this notion that Rob Kaufman, who has been co-owned Michael Waltrip Racing, is now investing in Chip Ganassi's team. And that brings all sorts of questions to be answered, because Ganassi has a Chevrolet team, Kaufman has a Toyota team. Waltrip's team has been languishing. Mm-hmm. You wonder if this signals that Ganassi will switch to Toyota. And you wonder what's going to happen with Waltrip's team. And also, I think that you'd have to say, if this was any sport in the world other than NASCAR, people would be talking about how it was a conflict for a guy to, at least for the short term, be part owner of 2 different teams. It'd be like if Bob Kraft bought into the Giants or something, you know, or more likely the Jets, I guess. But,
yeah.
But I mean, it's odd to me that isn't even seen as an issue now. It could be the way that everyone is saying a whole lot of nothing, from Toyota to Chevrolet. I mean, Toyota says we don't have a commitment to Michael Waltrip by 2015. That's really odd, since Toyota practically created Michael Waltrip's team way back when they came in. So there's a whole lot of double talk there, and so it may well be that you know, Kaufman is completely getting rid of his ownership in the other team, but they're not willing to say it. There's all kinds of things. This strikes me as being one of those things where everything is more complete than they're letting on, because somewhere some lawyers have said, don't talk about this till we tell you to. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of strange questions to be answered about that, those machinations.
Well, let me ask you, 30 seconds, you got to answer this question. Danica Patrick not going to make the chase, losing GoDaddy after this season. This is the end of year 3, I believe, right, with Tony Stewart.
Right.
So where do they go from here? Will she be back with Tony Stewart next year? Is he remaining patient?
I believe that while they don't have a sponsor signed, I believe they have announced that Stewart-Haas Racing has extended her contract, mm-hmm. which means they must have a sponsor close. So as amazing as it may be, I think that Danica may well be around for a while longer.
Well, look, we got a woman coaching football in the NFL, and might as well have Danica around on the track for a little
No,
while.
there's
longer.
nothing wrong with a woman. There's no reason a woman can't be a good race car
Oh, I
driver.
agree.
There just hasn't been one yet.
Yeah. Well, maybe she'll be the one.
That's right.
Maybe she'll be the one. Thank you, Monty.
You're welcome, Phil.
Have a great weekend.
planning on it.
Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR here on Sports Talk. People think I'm a chauvinist pig, and I have no idea where they get that from.
They check your DNA.
We'll be right back to wrap it up. Once again, thanks to Monty Dutton for being with us tonight. For Monty on NASCAR, you can read more of Monty's insightful things on his blog, montydutton.com. It's MONTEDUTTON.com. Thanks to Monty. Thanks to David Shelton for being with us tonight. Thanks to Mike Morgan for being back with us from vacation as well. Now, you talk about having your bad days. Bashaud Breeland had one of those today. We mentioned earlier that he's been suspended for the first game of the season because of an involvement with some marijuana going back a few months. Today at practice in the Redskins camp, he suffered an apparent knee injury and was carted off the field. Knee buckled when he was defending wide receiver Quentin Dunbar in a one-on-one drill. Was taken to the training facility to examine the injury. That's the definition of a bad day right there.
Well, especially as the first, isn't this the first day?
First day,
that's,
yeah.
That's
First
sad.
day. That's what
But,
I'm talking about.
so a lot of those injuries do happen on the first day, especially when guys think they can go full bore when they may be in physical shape, but not yet in football shape.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you want to go one way and the joint says, no, I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So we head into this weekend and looking forward to what this weekend? We got a little baseball. We got NASCAR. We've got the training camps. What else is going on of interest? American Pharaohs racing this weekend up in New York.
Well,
first time since he won the Triple Crown.
What interests me is I've been bouncing back and forth from ESPNU to watch old Clemson games from last year, and sometimes South Carolina is on the SEC or any football. I'm looking at it now because I'm trying to whet my appetite for the main course that's happening in a few weeks.
Yeah, can't wait for it to get here. Interesting little write-up in the State today by Bob Gillespie on Steve Spurrier writing an autobiography, along with his close friend and longtime newspaper man, Buddy Martin. And in his comments, and this just shows you with Spurrier how if he feels you've wronged him in some way, he doesn't forget. Rand Henry wrote a biography of Spurrier that he worked on for nearly 20 years, had complete access to Spurrier, he said. And he wrote something in there that Spurrier didn't like about the relationship between Spurrier and his father, and it really has ticked him off. And in his comments to Bob Gillespie, he just threw Rand Henry under the bus. Just under the bus. And not only did he throw him under the bus, he backed the bus up. Not only did he back it up, he moved it forward too. He went back and forth. So he can be a charming guy, but get on the wrong side, there's one of your enemies. Thank you, Larkin Belton. Thank you, Pro. Have a great night and a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.